got a strange going on out here. Something just killed my dog.
Something killed your dog?
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining the show tonight. As usual, I'm your host, Dano. You guys, I just want to say thank you so much for joining the show. You guys, we got a great guest on tonight. We have one of my moderators on my channel, and her name is Tonya, and she's from Michigan. And she's going to get into, I guess, some encounters that she had. Again, she wants to tell me what they were, but I don't want her to tell me because I want to be like you guys and hear them for the first time. But I believe one is a dogman encounter, and I believe one may be a Bigfoot encounter when she was younger. But I'm telling you guys, just from the little snippets that I read, I'm super stoked about having her on to tell these stories. But before we do, I just want to say, you guys, thank you so much for supporting the channel. Again, myself, I have a personal goal of 5,000 subs by the end of the month. Today is the 5th. I have 25 days, and I'm sitting at about 4,700. So I'm getting close, you guys. If you guys have had an encounter and you'd like to come on the show, please shoot me an email at thecryptidpodcast72@gmail.com, thecryptidpodcast72@gmail.com. Also, my buddy Josh from Mysteries Unknown and myself, we've joined forces. Wonder Twins Power Activate. We created mysteriesandcryptids.com. To get there, please type in www.mysteriesandcryptids.com to check out what we got coming your guys' way. The website's active. Just a couple things are not. We're working on those. We're just trying to get everything just nailed down perfect. So when we are 100% up and ready to go, it's all seamless for you guys to check out everything we got. So remember, mysteriesandcryptids.com. That's www.mysteriesandcryptids.com. Let's get right on into the show. Tonya, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing good. You?
Good. You know, you kind of led on a few times you had seen something.
Yeah.
And I had to chase you around a little bit. And you kept trying to push me off onto your sister. Hey, my sister's got some crazy stuff. I got some stuff too. And I'm like, wait a minute. I know your sister's on vacation and we're going to schedule something for next month. But I finally got you.
Yeah.
And so how old were you? We don't want the details now. We want to hear me tell you a story. So how old were you when this happened?
I was 15 years old.
And was I right? Was it a dog man?
This
or
is
you
what
believe?
I thought. Honestly, I've always thought this was Bigfoot, but I didn't think it's Bigfoot like Patty. When I pictured Patty, I saw that. I was thrilled, but I saw the Boggy Creek Monster like everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And I pictured in my head with what happened that.
Okay.
It wasn't Patty. But I've carried this for 47 years now and thinking it was a Bigfoot. So I only had told one other person that kind of knows about this stuff, and they're the one that told me something totally different than what I've always thought. So I don't know.
Is this what you hinted at? Is something chasing you towards your house?
We were in the house when that happened.
Now, didn't something chase you? You were outside?
Yes. You want me to just go into the whole detail of moving there and the property and stuff? And
yeah, let's go ahead and let's go from start to finish. Now, we'll have to let you know I do have a hard out at about 9:30. So
okay.
So we got about an hour.
Okay.
All right. So take over. You got it.
All right. So like I said, my family, we're a family of 7. I have 2 older brothers, 2 little sisters. And my dad moved a lot to better himself. He was like a general manager. He was an electrician. And basically, he would go help start companies that were hurting and get them going. And he got this great offer. I was born in Michigan, but we grew up in Nashville, Tennessee. And, he gets this offer. So he tells us that we're going to be moving to Mississippi. And so we go to see the property. And this property, I'm going to tell you, was in the forest. Like, I don't know how many of you know Mississippi, but this 1978. And we pull up to this address. Well, it's a dirt road. It is a mile off the road. When you turn onto this private road, there were two little houses where you turn in and then nothing. It was just our property. So you drive a mile back on this dirt road lined with pine trees the entire way, and you come to this bridge with a creek that was about 8 to 10 feet wide. And you cross this bridge and you come in a circle drive, and there's our house. There is a barn, and there is this very long fence that my dad was into birds, chickens, all that. He had a lot of those. He loved birds his whole life, especially chickens. But this house is like too good to be true. My dad, it's like less than 2 years old. My dad's looking at it and he's like, how can we afford this? I mean, this is a hunter's paradise. It's got, 200 acres of trees, forest, the pecan trees. We had an orchard behind our house. And I mean, there's a pond, deer. It's got all the things any hunter would love. And my dad and brothers were hunters. And we're looking at this house that's less than 2 years old. And he's thinking, how is this in my price range? And I'm just going to tell y'all, think of that movie Amityville. The family moves up and like, how are we getting this house? It's such a great deal. So I kind of always think about that and kid about it now. But it was a beautiful home. So we were very excited. And we went back, packed up, moved there. My dad started that job. And we only lived there just over a year. And I'm going to tell you, there on this property where our house was, it's a very long ranch with a front porch that's not enclosed. Behind it is the pecan trees. And then straight out about 3 football fields is a pine forest that goes like this. And just forever, pine trees, big pine trees. And I thought that was kind of cool. And, my 2 little sisters, I just remember right away that once we were moved in, I thought I'm just going to kind of mosey on down there because that's a neat looking forest. And I got almost to the edge of that tree line and I felt, I don't know how to describe this other than a very negative or a push, like, don't come here. And I thought, don't come here. Am I really thinking this? But in my mind, I was being told, don't come here. And I looked back at my house and thought, okay, I'm not going to go there. So I didn't think a lot of it at that point. So I ran back up, to the house and that. We had a pasture there. So there was cows out there. And this property was rented to 2 farmers. So there was hay on the property and then a lot of cows. So once my dad brought, all of his animals there, got them settled, he had this long fenced in like pen. And then there was a huge tree there. And the chickens like to roost in that tree, which was probably 7 or 8 feet off the ground, the limbs. It was a very large tree. But nothing happened. I'm going to say 8 or 9 months because it was almost fall of 1978. And there was a field in front of us. And it had been a pasture, so it had a lot of dirt. Mississippi's got a lot of red clay. And my dad taught us about snakes. There was a lot of snakes. You had rattlesnakes, copperheads. We had that. We seen that. So we learned to always have big sticks and you wear boots. Well, I had met a family and lo and behold, I didn't think about this at the time, didn't know it. But through this woods is a cemetery right there. But it's a shortcut to this family that I became friends with. And she told me, I cut off like 15 minutes and my mom wouldn't have to bring me over there. So, I checked it out and I ran through there. I didn't have any incidents, a lot of snapping brushes in that. And it was like maybe a week or 2. I thought, that's pretty cool. And I asked my sister to go with me. She was 11. And the day that she went with me, it was different because I kind of had that negative feeling again, sort of like over at that forest I told you about. And we started running. We both had sticks. We had to cross that creek I told you that came on the property. And this was also a pasture, but at that time there was no cows in there. And we were both running along, and we started right away, both of us, hearing snapping, branch breaks, somebody running right along beside us, but it's real thick brush. And there was a lot of trees in there too, but the brush was so thick. But we're running, and she's just like, I'm like, do you hear that? She, yeah, we have to go. Where we're going to end up is the cemetery that I told you about. There was a little cemetery on the side of our driveway, and we had to jump across the fence. So as we're running, and I'm hearing this thing running beside me and her, but not seeing anything, when we got to the fence, we both climbed up to jump it. And I said, just watch, a deer is going to run out. That's a deer, because it sounded big. And she was like, yeah, I know. And, you know, we climb the fence, jump over, we kind of stand there, nothing comes out. And we look at each other, and I said, it's got to be there. It's right there. She says, I know. So we're like, what? Well, we take off and run. We have to run past the cemetery and cross this highway. It's Route 15. This place, I can go ahead and tell you, was between Houston and Holka, Mississippi, and it was by the Natchez Trace, about 25 miles from Tupelo on Route 15. And anyway, we crossed that road, went to my friends, and I kind of told her, I said, me and her literally just heard something big running beside us, you know, in these woods, but nothing came out. And I thought it was weird. So we didn't go back home that way. I called my mother, and I said, you know, Mommy, you're going to have to come pick us up, because I don't want to come back through those woods. So she did, and she wasn't very happy about it, but she picked us up. So that happened in that woods. But nothing happened. Like I said, my dad, he was kind of working late, and I had 2 older brothers, and then, like I said, 2 little sisters. I'm the middle child, the oldest girl. And my dad was giving a husky dog. And he kind of thought this is good to protect him, because he would get home late from work. And he, you know, it was still just kind of like a pup, but a big pup. So it was a few months, you know, he grew, because I want to say when stuff started really getting freaky, stuff started happening was around the end of September, the 1st of October. It was already starting to be fall. And a lot of negative stuff happened, because my father was in a job and some really bad stuff happened. And he had decided, I'm not going to continue with this company. And he quit. And I mean, he's got 5 kids, and he's thinking, I can just get a job, because my dad always got a job. But where we were, basically, in the country very far, and there's like nothing around except for this main company he went there for. So he couldn't find a job right away. So my oldest brother had a job. He was working, and it was a sawmill, and he got my dad in there. While my mother had only worked very short time. My dad, back then, they didn't like the women to work. My mother didn't work, and she had to go to work with my dad in the sawmill for them to be able to pay our bills and stuff. And so my dad was very angry about this, because, you know, all of a sudden he doesn't have a job. He feels like women aren't supposed to work. My mom had to go to work, and it was just a lot. He was angry. And so, like I said, it had to be coming up on October. Well, this pasture I told you about, that forest that was down there that gave me that bad feeling, on this side of the house was the pecan trees. And that didn't feel negative at all. Like, we would run down through there, me and my sisters, because it was cow pasture, and there's a lot of cows down by this pond. And, you know, I never saw no bull or nothing ever. These cows didn't bother us. But I went down by myself one day, just running down this little dirt road. So I passed our pecan orchard, nothing was unusual. But coming back, and it's daylight, I get to these pecan trees that are very close to our home, and I'm hearing these owls hooting. And I didn't think it's weird. It's daylight. I didn't think it's weird. I didn't know that that's usually not normal. I know now, but and then that wasn't just it. After the owls hooted, these pecan trees are very big and full. And I look up in these trees, because I hear this is gonna get you. I hear like monkeys or chimpanzees in these trees. And there's these owls there hooting. And I'm thinking, okay, there's no way I'm hearing that. But I heard it. I clearly heard it. So I kind of freaked me out a little bit. I ran onto the house and I didn't say anything that time. But just to prove it, I decided after school the next day, I'm taking my two sisters down there. Only I'm not going to tell them and just see if they see anything unusual. So we did the same thing. We ran down, watched the cows down there grazing and stuff, and we turn around to come back. And we're just skipping along, and we're coming up on the pecan orchard, and I hear the owls. My sisters hear them, and we all like owls to this day. They were comforting. And all of a sudden, I just wait. I go, girls, stop. And they're like, what? It started. It did it. And I didn't say anything other than, do you guys hear anything? And they're like, my little sister, who was 8 years old, said, I don't hear any monkeys. I said, what did you say? She goes, I don't hear any monkeys. I said, yes, you do. How could you say that to me? And then the other sister that's, 11, she says it. She goes, there's monkeys. But we're looking, there is absolutely nothing there, just owls. And the owls still hooted. So at this point, we run back to the house because they're freaked out. I'm freaked out because they heard it. So I know I'm not crazy. So we go to the house that evening when my dad got home from work. My dad, he's not one you can, I don't know how to say, like, he's very serious and like don't kid around or whatever. But I said, Dad, I gotta tell you something. I said, I think we need to call in town, like the newspaper or the news in our town, and see if the zoo is missing some monkeys or something, chimpanzees. He goes, what are you talking about? And I said, well, I told him I'd heard it like the day before. I said, I heard monkeys out in these pecan trees. And I said, the girls went with me today. I didn't say anything to them and they heard it. And he goes, you stop it. You got a wild imagination. There's no monkeys. We don't even have a zoo anywhere in this area. So then I was kind of like, well, I've heard of circuses that travel, and I've heard of animals getting loose, Dad. And he's starting to get really mad at me. He goes, just knock it off. He goes, you have a wild imagination. There are no monkeys. And so I dropped it because, he said to drop it. And I said, well, can I tell you one more thing? I said, I've tried to go down to the forest down there, to the woods. And Dad, I've got like a negative feeling where I, in my mind, was told not to come in there. And I said, Dad, I actually saw in my mind Native Americans in that forest. Then he really is like starting to think, oh God, my daughter's crazy. And I honestly thought I'd never had anything like this ever. But so then now things are starting to add up to where it's starting to get really bad. And what happened is, like I said, this is early October, around that. And so fall, and we're all sleeping, and we're awakened to my dad's chickens just, I don't know what you call screeching, how if something's being invaded or in a chicken coop or attacked. And my dad and brothers were hunters. So the first thing they did back then, they had those Coleman, those big square lanterns, and with the big square battery. So they had like 2 or 3 of those. Well, my dad and my oldest brother grabbed the shotguns, grabbed those lanterns, took off because we didn't have lights out there by the barn and that, but this was in the trees. And they were out there for a little while, come back to the house. We're all awake now, my other brother and my 2 little sisters and my mom. And we heard all this ruckus out there. So we're like, what is going on? And my dad is very sad. Because like I told you, my dad's call sign on the CB was Birdman. He loved his birds. He loved chickens. And he's telling my mom, he said 2 of our chickens were literally plucked out of the tree. My mom goes, what do you mean? He goes, they were plucked out and they're laying there dead. And he said, they weren't eaten. She goes, what do you mean? He goes, only their internal organs are gone. It's like just the front, the breast, and that is clawed. And the whole chicken is there. And he said, I've been hunting my whole life. And coons and possums, they don't do this. And he said, I don't know. But it was startling. So nothing was there. They didn't see anything. They come in, go back to bed. Nothing happened. I would say 2 or 3 days. Happens again. We're all wake up. These chickens are out there going crazy. We also had guineas, peacocks, pheasants, but a lot of chickens. And again, my brother and dad grab their shotguns, take the flashlights. They're out there about 10 minutes. This time when they come in, there's like 4 chickens that are killed. So more. And they're laying there. And again, he said their internal organs are gone. But the chicken is there, just chicken body. They're just dead. What animal wastes a chicken? And now he actually cried. My dad teared up because he loves his birds and he's angry. And, we're all just there. I'm really nervous about this because if my dad is saying he's hunted his whole life with my brother and they've never seen this, then he thinks that me and the girls were on the other end of the house from my parents. They let us have the ensuite in the home. I was kind of spoiled. I'm the oldest girl. And because I didn't even want to move there too much, he let me pick the bedroom. Well, my brothers and mom and dad picked the other end of the house. It's like a Jack and Jill setup. It's like 2 really big bedrooms with a bathroom between. And they didn't care. And there was a door off of their bedrooms and bathrooms. So it was off the dining room and that. And I will tell you that was the second time. A couple more days go by. There was no incident. It happens again. Now there's more chickens, and I'm talking like 6 or 7 chickens. So now dad is just upset, and we hear him, me and my sisters heard him say, I don't know how to explain this, but there's strange and weird footprints. He said, I've never seen this. I didn't hear him describe it. Like, if I go back now, I'm an adult, I would be like, what kind of, because me in my head, I told you, I thought this was probably a Bigfoot. I had it in my head. But for him to say strange or unusual, I didn't press my dad because if he said something, you just didn't do that with him. And so then now it's kind of weird because that was 3 episodes. And I will go tell you, it did happen. This had to be the end of the month because my dad had already been trying to get a job, and he got a job and didn't tell us yet, but it was back in Tennessee. So we were going to be moving back to Tennessee, which actually we were all thrilled when we found out, but he had landed this job, and lo and behold, we're all awakened one more time. This is the 4th time. This time there's even more chickens. And they stayed out there a long time. My dad, remember I told you there's a creek bed right along this barn in the actual chicken pen. And there's trees there. And there's like a creek bed. They went down. They're like, it has to be, whatever this is doing it so quick. It had to go down in there or up around the house. So, my dad and my brothers are trying to they found nothing. But now he's just really concerned. Like, this is just the strangest thing. So that was about it for the chickens because it didn't happen again because my dad, I told you he got this job back in Tennessee. So he had set up a realtor to get a house that would be suitable, again, with land and be able to accommodate our animals like a farm. He likes a lot of acreage, trees and all that. So he tells my mom that Friday he had left with my brothers and he was going to meet the people at this new job. And it was 3 to 3.5 hours from us in Tennessee. It was close to Memphis, Tennessee. And he was going to be leaving. And he said, but I will be home the next day because he was going to get introduced to the new management. And then he would meet with the realtor Saturday morning and my brothers to go check out this house to make sure it was suitable for, his animals and for enough rooms and bedrooms for 5 kids. So this is where I've never heard anything like this in my life to this day. It's very hard to talk about. I get as scared right now telling you almost as when it happened, because I've relived this for 47 years. Because, like I said, I've just never heard this spot. That night, Dad and my brothers left, or that day, and come nighttime, me and my sisters had fallen asleep on this couch. And I need to paint you this picture. We had this long porch that went down the front of this house. You had a front door, a main door. Then we had the side door. The house was built out on the ends. And that was our living room. It had to be about 18 by 25. I would say this living room was big. It was a fireplace across that whole wall. And so my parents had put this couch up against the side door, but had it so the door can only open about 6 or 8 inches, because my dad had a cord of wood and it went up on this door about 4 foot, the stack that he had right there. And that door was only to open enough to pass logs through to fill the little alcove of the fireplace, because we didn't use that door. It just couldn't open all the way because, like I said, our couch was put there. And so this night, it's just the dog. We had the husky dog I told you, me and my 2 little sisters and my mom. Well, we fell asleep on the couch. Me and the 2 sisters, one was cuddled into me like this, the baby. She was 8, and then the 11-year-old, she was actually down at my feet, laying this way. And Mom had shut the TV off, and her and the husky dog, his name was Rojo, they were down on the other end of the house. And this is really scary to me to tell you, but it's what happened. I am awoken to, first, a very bad smell, a pungent smell. And when I hear a lot of people say there's a skunk smell. This was similar to some skunk smell, but actually I don't think a skunk smells that bad. Really, like, horrible. Like, this was a rotted animal. Like, down in the South, people know the sun, how hot, when there's something dead on the road, how nasty that smell is. I got whiffs of that, but that's not the scary thing. The scary thing is, immediately when I got the smell, our door, I would guess that door is 7 foot tall. It was all wood. There's no window in the door. And the door was locked. But at the top of this door, I hear, and I kid you not, a heartbeat. And it's not my heartbeat. This is a loud heartbeat at the top of that door. So I smell the smell, I hear the heartbeat, and immediately, like, deer, or that they do a puff of air, like that. I hear that, but I hear like a growl, like a growl. And it's really quick together. Like, it's like I'm hearing a heartbeat, but this growl and this puff. I start crying. I'm scared, but I've got to wake these 2 kids up. And while I'm shaking the 11-year-old awake with my foot, I cover her mouth. She sits up, and I go like this. I point at that door, and so she knows, just listen and don't make any noise. She turns around there. Well, she hears it. And now it's turning the door handle. And so we're hearing the puff, the growl, this door handle. Now I got to get the little one awake. So I put my hand over her mouth, and I'm shaking her, because kids wake up like that, they're going to cry. And I immediately tell her, I do the same thing. I point at the door, and I'm like, listen. And then she hears it. So we cuddle together, and I whisper to their ears, and I say, listen to me. On the count of 3, we run to Mom. Don't look back. Just run to Mom. We have to run We get off the couch. When I say 3, we run. You got to run through the dining room and down. And I told you there's a door. We have to open a door that opens into the brothers' bedrooms was the right. There's a bathroom in front, mom's room and dad to the left. So we close that door. We jump in the bed on my mom. The dog, which was the craziest thing, this husky is on the floor whimpering. He didn't bark. He's crying like us. And when my mom, you imagine 3 kids jumping on your mom who's sound asleep. And I look up and she has a picture window in her bedroom, a little bit smaller than a picture window, but a large. She don't have a curtain. It's as dark as dark. And I'm like, Mom. And I go like this. I go, something is trying to break in the house. So she says to me, someone is trying to get in? I said, no, not someone, something. It's growling. It has a heartbeat and it's huffing. And she's like, what? I said, Mom, we don't have a curtain. So we grab the sheet or the comforter that's on her bed and she helps me tuck it to the top of the corners. And she has a tall dresser and we push it over to cover most of this window and hold that curtain that we just made with her sheet. And then we're just sitting there and the dog's whimpering. And then I go, this is where it even gets more scary. Oh my gosh. We have 2 phones. The one is in me and the girls because my dad gave us the ensuite. But the main phone, we have to come out of my mom's room, go next to the window in the dining room, and that thing would be to the right at the other door. And we have to call my dad. He had left this number at this motel that him and my brothers were. And back in that day, you can't ring a room direct. So Mom had the number. We quick call my dad. We call the front desk, tell them to ring my dad's room. Dad is waking up. So I'm guessing to you all that it was between 12 and 1 in the morning. And so my dad wakes up kind of a little bit angry. And my mom is saying, something's trying to break in the house. Tonya said something's trying to break in. And the girls are frantic and everything. My dad did the same thing. Something, you mean someone? She said, no. She says, it's making noises, growling. She explained it. He says, Pat, he goes, hang up the phone. You and Tonya load the shotguns. You know what to do. Call the sheriff. Get him out there. I'm 3 hours away from you. What do you want me to do? So we hang up the phone. We run back to her bedroom. The closet is where the guns were. Me and her know how to load the guns. We load the guns. And then I go, Mom, we didn't call the sheriff. And she goes, just push. We shut the door. She says, push the other dresser, push it against the door. She said, Tonya, the sheriff is 15 minutes out. By the time he got here, that thing you're talking about, if it's out there, it's going to already be in here. So what good does it do to call the sheriff? Now I'm going to be honest. And I wet myself. I wet my pants already. And I'm pretty sure the 2 little sisters did too. And I just hunkered down on the floor. My mom was in the bed with the 2 little sisters. And she sat there with her shotgun. I had the other shotgun. And what did we do? We just did what we knew. We started praying. I prayed with everything in me for Jesus to protect me and my family, that I wanted to see my dad and my brothers tomorrow. And don't let that thing come in here. And I just thought, my mom was so scared. Honestly, I knew if that thing is coming in, we're both going to shoot. But I'm pretty sure my mom would have shot me. That's how scared she was. But I would have went out fighting. But I was terrified. And I noticed this had to be the longest night of our life to sit there because I wasn't sure. And I thought, I said to Mom, we were whispering. And I just said, Mom, I don't hear anything at your window. So I thought that's a good sign, but the dog was still whimpering. So I wasn't sure, but it just was a long time. And if I'm thinking it's had to be around 1 in the morning. So just imagine us sitting there shivering, me on the floor, them in bed with Mom, this dog. And we just, like I said, prayed. And all of a sudden I see some streams of light coming in the top of that curtain we made with the sheet. And I noticed at some point that dog had stopped whimpering. Rojo was not whimpering. And he kind of was stirring around and stuff. And I go, Mom, there's, shreds of light coming in. So we got a little bit excited, but yet we still didn't, none of us moved. We just stayed frozen to that position. And then it's probably a half hour, and then full light. You could see that it now was daylight. And it was like we made it through the night. And the dog was not crying. He was acting like his normal self, but you could tell he needed to go out. So we were terrified. So Mom, we had to move the dresser back to open that door. And then we had to open the second door that goes out to the main part of the house. And I'm telling you, that Mom, then me, the dog, my two little sisters, were all kind of following each other, and we listen. We don't hear anything in the house. So I'm like, I don't hear nothing, but we're not sure about outside. But this dog had to go to the bathroom. So Mom just opened it enough. He ran out. So I thought, okay, that's a good sign. He did his thing. He barked at the door. We opened the door. We locked it. And we had to sit there. My dad did not get back till that afternoon because him and the boys had gone to look at the new house. And we had to just sit there. And we sit there huddled in that dining room. And I don't think my dad got home till about supper time. Would have been probably 5 o'clock that next day, because he had a 3.5 hour drive back from Tennessee. And that pretty much is my encounter. And like I said, I had never, the heartbeat, when I moved back to Michigan, I had, we got a family doctor, and I confided in him. And he did not laugh at me. He was a hunter that would go out west and stuff. But he said, I will tell you this. I don't know what that was. I don't know what you had, but the heartbeat was your own heartbeat. He goes, you were just so scared. I said, no, I told him, doctor, it's not. I said, yeah, my heart was in my throat because this is the scariest I had ever been in my life. And he said, no, it was just your heartbeat. So that's what he told me. But it literally, the door, it's like I could feel it. That's how strong that heartbeat was. And my sisters heard and witnessed everything I did. So that's pretty much what happened. And then when my dad got back, this was right before Thanksgiving when that happened, because the end of October it all started. But a week later was Thanksgiving, and Mom made the meal, and it just, that we love October, November, December, our 3 favorite months, our family. And that meal was not like any normal Thanksgiving. We were all, just from what had happened to us in that month and a half on that, it was kind of traumatizing. And so Dad said, that following week we were moving. So right after Thanksgiving, I think was Monday, because he had set that up and the moving truck had showed up, and we were never so glad to leave a place. But I did find it weird. And my dad said this, but my mom and dad are now gone. And when we got that house, that it was so affordable, it was brand new. And Dad even said, why would the owner not live in this house? But he just rented the farmland. And then, so that house would it was 47. So that house would only be 49 years old. Well, I stayed in touch with that family I told you about by the cemetery. That was their family cemetery. We are still friends today. And I messaged her throughout time, bring this up. But she said not long after that property, that house and barn were taken down, and it's just a forest. And my husband actually went and Googled it a while back for me, and he found it. And he goes, does this look right? He found the cemetery, he found the driveway, the bridge, only there's like just dirt back there in the forest. You can see it's all forest. And I said, well, where's the house? So that's why I got a hold of her. And she goes, no, they took it down and it's not there. And she doesn't know what they used the property for. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's crazy. I don't know what I would do, and you said your sis, one was 8 and one was 6?
No, 11 and 8.
11 and 8. So you were how, about 15, you said?
15. They we check in. I have brought the story every year since then. I'm different than and I want to say, Josh, I'm so glad I found Josh and you. And like you say, where it's safe in that. Only thing is, I've tried to watch most all of your podcasts and Josh's. I haven't gotten through all of them. I just retired in June. But when I found you guys, like, I just love hearing this because the opposite of you and him, and I think it's because being a woman, a girl at the time, we like where most people that have this experience kind of they don't tell anybody or keep it. I'm the opposite. As soon as I moved and met new friends, I would tell anybody that would listen about it. And I would say, do you believe in Bigfoot? Because I thought this was Bigfoot. And back then we couldn't research. I couldn't Google. I did know in Mississippi I knew hunters and stuff that we didn't have black bears or bears at all because the growling I thought could it be, but I didn't find out till later. I had to go to libraries and try to find books on Bigfoot. I did not know about a dog man, and I'm in Michigan, but I know now. And I didn't know about any of this. So that's why I wanted to say I had the only person I told this to besides you is Mags, because she is such a dear friend now. And I thought she lived on the other side of the state. And so it was kind of funny because one day she sent me a friend request. Come to find out, it's really weird, Dan, but she lives right basically in my backyard.
Yeah.
And her husband knew my father. She works with my sister. This story is so crazy. So now we're just really good friends, but I never knew about a dog man.
I don't think that was a dog man.
Oh, good.
In Mississippi? No, I think it was a Bigfoot. Honestly, it doesn't have any of the characteristics of dog man.
Okay, so it was a Bigfoot?
Well, I'm not saying yes, but everything you told me makes me believe that it was a Bigfoot.
It's just in your mind. Like later, like the girl that you thought was my sister, it's my sister's best friend from Appalachia, Vicky. She has all this stuff going on, but I can tell you she would have not done this. She just said to me, Tonya, because when we met her, she knew about this back then. And because when we moved to Michigan, her family was one of the first families we met. And she said, I would have looked out that curtain in the dining room.
Yeah, so would I.
You would? But my sister that was 11 they were best friends, and she's the toughest cookie I know. I told you, we definitely wet ourselves and we're crying uncontrollable, and there's no way I was looking. But I guess because I've always wondered, but I don't think I would have survived if as scared as I was if I would have saw what it was.
Nah, you didn't fine, I think. So I just got a couple questions. Okay. Did you ever find out any history on that property?
No, and but I know that area. It's all forest, and it still is. My girlfriend said, honestly, she goes, there's still hardly any houses on that road. The cemetery is still there. And she says she doesn't know. It's just vacant. It's just forest. But it has a pond. It has a creek. I mean, a good flowing creek. There were deer. There were there's all the stuff on the property. But when I started being able to research Mississippi, I never found a single thing of Bigfoot sighting back then. Like in my 20s and 30s, I could never find anything. That Mississippi has nothing. So I was like, well, we didn't make this up, my family. And that was the thing. I went through it with my mom and two sisters, or I probably would think I was crazy.
At any time you were there, did you ever see any type of odd tracks?
I did not, Dan, but the only thing I know, my dad said it was strange and unusual, and he had seen these tracks, but he said he had never seen anything like it. And we didn't push him because just a lot of weird stuff at that time. It was all happening. And Dan, those owls, I know now that that's kind of unusual, but I think we had 2 barred owls and maybe the horned owl on the other end of the property, because by the creek, but there was definitely 2 in those pecan trees because you could hear them. And they were hooting in the daytime. And but when all that stuff happened, everything just stopped because basically we left. I mean, like that night Dad came back, we weren't left alone again. The craziest thing to me too was the dog. I never knew a dog. That dog, my dad got that dog to protect us. And he would let you know if anybody, I mean, he barked. He was a barker. So if a car pulled up, we knew somebody was coming. And he could hear if somebody wasn't supposed to be there or on the property. That dog let you know. So that was an odd thing right there.
Yeah, I mean, barred owls do hoot during the day.
Okay.
So, though it's less common than at night. So,
Okay.
but again, you also have to understand when an owl hoots, it trails off. It just doesn't abruptly stop. It trails off.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then my last question is that whole encounter, hearing the heartbeat, seeing the doorknob turn,
Mm-hmm.
something trying to get in there. About how long that encounter last?
Only, okay, from me being woke up to, I literally pinched myself because when I heard the heartbeat, I knew that couldn't be. And then, I smelled the smell and all that. And then I immediately woke the next sister up and let her realize, to be quiet, but something's there. And then the one right after. So the whole thing, probably 40 seconds.
Okay. And after you guys took off in your mom's room, about how long do you think that creature was in or around your house?
That, Dan, honestly, I never heard it at the back window, but I was terrified. That's why we got that sheet up, because Mom didn't have a curtain on there, and all I could picture was it knew we were over there because obviously it could hear us. And I was terrified, but because the dog whimpered the whole time, that's what I don't know and didn't like. That wasn't normal.
About how long did it whimper?
Oh, I would say I feel like it had to be around 1 a.m, and he probably stopped about 3 or 2:30, 3. But when the daylight come, because I noticed that I was so scared and I was crying the whole time. But that's when I said to Mom, "Hey, he's not whimpering." But I had saw sharp. It had to be like back then, probably like 5 a.m. But I feel like it was 3 or 4 hours.
Wow.
Honestly.
Tonya, that's crazy.
It's real crazy.
All right, I got one final question for you, and then I got to get ready to jump over to something else. What do you think these things are?
I thought, in my mind, I pictured like that Boggy Creek type of monster, because I didn't know Bigfoot growls or huffs. I didn't know any of that, but I pictured, but the turning the door handle, it was, rattling it. It was rattling. You could see it turning.
Oh, so it wasn't like just a slowly move. It was like
No,
really.
it was because it's a brass like handle.
Yeah.
It chinged like, no, it was turning it.
Yeah, so it wasn't like trying to be all sneaky and quiet about it. It was definitely
like,
just
okay. And it had a push button lock, and I had locked that door. I'm the one that would go around and lock the door, because back then, that's another thing. My mom and dad, and being in the country, didn't always lock doors. But I had this fear, and I made sure when they went to bed sometimes before the kids. I locked all the doors, and we only had 2 in a garage, so it was the front door and that side door. But Dan, the thing I have never heard anybody say, and even like right now, is why did I hear that heartbeat? Like, what was the loud heartbeat?
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
So
that's the thing.
well, all right. I want to say thank you so much, not only for coming on the show and telling that story, but also being a great moderator for my channel.
Thank you so much. I enjoy it, Dan. Even my husband, who's kind of skeptical, and I found Josh and you almost at the same time, and it was just so strange how you both kept popping in. There's a lot of channels that I didn't even know was out there, but we would start watching. It's not like you or him. And one day I said to him, I feel like I belong to them, like I'm supposed to be with them. No, Dan, I'm serious. And he, who was a little bit skeptical from all this, and then he started hearing more stories that you guys were having on, and the more stories and the people, he would look and go, they're telling the truth. You can tell they're real. I said, that's the whole thing. Everybody you guys have on, I believe totally.
Yeah.
And everybody's experience and encounter is so different.
Mhm.
But, you know, I know what happened to us. More people believe me now because so many more has happened. But back then, no. People either said you're lying or you're crazy. There were people in our own family that said you're just making it up or imagining it. And I'm like, really? My sisters and my mom too?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It was, but I enjoy you. I enjoy Josh. I enjoy your audience, and it's just fun. We have a good time.
Well, I'm going to give you a little sneak peek on what I'm going to be talking about tomorrow.
Okay.
Tomorrow I'm going to be talking about the Spotsville monster and then some other stuff. So,
Okay.
so
Looking forward to it.
it's going to be a good time. So, all right. Tonya, thank you so much. Tell your husband I said hello and thank you
Yes.
for being, I'll call him the obscure fan.
Thank you.
All right. You
He's
guys
a
have a
good
great
one.
night.
You too.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
You guys, that is Tonya. I'm going to tell you right now, that was a great encounter. Scary because, and again, the thing is, here I go again. The thing is that I think Class B encounters to me are very, very frightening because you can hear and smell, and you're using more senses than just your eyes. And the whole heartbeat thing, I don't know what that was. I really don't. I don't have an answer for that. But the turning and the rattling of the doorknob, yeah, you guys, that's straight scary. So, all right, guys, that's the show for tonight. I just want to say thank you again so much. If you guys have had an encounter, you'd like to come onto the show, please shoot me an email at thecryptidpodcast72@gmail.com. Again, thecryptidpodcast72@gmail.com. Also, do not forget to check out www.mysteriesandcryptids.com. That's mysteriesandcryptids.com, brought to you by Mysteries Unknown and the Cryptid Podcast. You guys, I can't get out of here without saying what my brother Josh always says: stay prayed up. And as I always like to say, remember, you guys, a legend first begins with the sighting. You guys have a great night, and I'll see you next time.
I got a strange going on out here. Something just killed my dog.
Something killed your dog?